Hello and welcome to the show. The second round of the FailRace Touring Car Championship would go to the Sebring full circuit, a track that has plenty of long straights, but there are still some tight and twisty bits to worry the cars. The starting grid for race 1, unsurprisingly, it was the Aeon Focus of Kieran on pole position. I got my Focus up into second, surprising considering I'm not a huge fan of the full layout of Sebring. A Scion would get itself onto third on the grid, and they are very quick in a straight line, enjoying the long straights, so they're also quick off the line. The other FailRace Motorsport car would be in fourth. Highest placed Scirocco would go fifth on the grid. The Sciroccos were likely to struggle a little bit, not their sort of track particularly. The other Aeon Focus found itself all the way down in sixth. Seventh place, we have the first of the Rockstar Sciroccos. The Sciroccos and the Civics we thought may struggle a little bit on this track. The highest placed Civic was only ninth, because this is very much quite a lot of straight line speed is involved around here. 11th, we had the JMR Focus, again another Civic all the way down in 12th place. We have a couple of the Raven West cars in 13th and 14th. I'm not sure what happened with the car in 15th. I'm not sure if we couldn't get a clean lap or what it was, as we expected the that particular Scirocco to be higher up the grid. But Sebring, lots of straights, making, or the fear was we were going to have plenty of Scion trains again that were going to cause us problems getting past. We got underway for the first race. I struggled getting off the line a bit. I was a little bit slow away. The Scion, as expected, fired off to be side by side with the leader by turn 1. The Volkswagen Motorsport Scirocco had a dive up the inside, and everybody, amazingly, there's a couple of sideways cars. There's a side of the background there that got very sideways. On this first race, everybody made it through turn 1, even with their very cold rear tyres that tends to make these touring cars very oversteering. We all got around the first corner relatively safely. I was quick through these next 3 turns, right on the back of the Scion, trying to have a look for a way past, but we have now come to a straight, and sure enough, the TC vanishes up ahead. The Aeon car, despite starting in 6th, was already up to 4th and right behind me. We have the Scion and 2 Sciroccos trying to go 3 wide into the hairpin. That is a scary prospect. It's bad enough to try to do overtakes there, let alone 3 wide on cold tyres on the opening lap. Amazingly, everybody got through. A little bit of rallycross, but everybody did make it through. There was a bump, I'm not sure if it was a little bit of a lag-assisted bump on that one. The poor Volkswagen Motorsport car got a little bit of a slide-on coming past the King. That allowed the other FailRace Motorsport car that had a bad opening lap to try and get up alongside, and does manage to make the move stick around the outside. The Volkswagen is there having a look, trying to get up the inside for the next turn, but can't quite fit his car up there. And then the 2 Rockstar Sciroccos that have started further back were joining in the fun of the lead train. As you saw, I was still frantically trying to find my way past the Scion on this open lap. Didn't really want to have it ahead of us by the time we came to the very long straight. The Aeon car proceeded to give me a little bit of a bump, give me a little bit of a push past up the inside. I promptly ran wide. The gold car is supposed to be Aeon liveried. Unfortunately, Forza is being funny with displaying that livery for whatever reason. Don't know what's going on particularly. I did keep ahead of the Scion as we came through the twisty bit. These corners, you can just about get an overtake if you're brave and a little bit lucky. You can fit 2 cars wide. You don't really want to be fitting 2 cars wide. And then we come down this very long back straight, and this is where the TCs do quite like it. Down here, they don't have a huge straight line speed advantage. It's just that little bit more, they just get to their top speed that little bit quicker, and sure enough, the Scion is up the inside as we come into this final turn. And this is a strange corner, the final turn at Sebring. There are many different lines you can take through it, and sure enough, despite being on the outside, I can carry enough speed and keep my focus around there and maintain my 3rd position. It's also incredibly bumpy. It's really a very bumpy corner for these cars to be worried about. I go defensive into the first corner. Scion is thinking about going the long way round, but the TCs just don't have the grip of the Focuses. We're not talking by a huge amount, but they just don't quite have the same grip. And again, the Scion is there having a look, but it's not quite got the brakes to try anything into the next corners. There is only a couple of corners, though, before we go to another long straight. There are quite a few good overtaking opportunities for cars around Sebring. Fortunately for me, I could manage to be quick enough through the turns that I had a big enough gap back as we came down the straight, and the Scion couldn't catch up. After a little bit of a dodgy start, the other FailRace motorsport car was making his way back through the order, this time going too wide through the corners that I said you don't really want to be too wide. They gave each other miles of space, which is good. The curb on the inside on the first part of here is a huge curb. It's the curb I did Will It Roll on Forza 5, the only curb I could find to sort of roll cars properly. It is a huge curb and it will throw these cars a long way on two wheels, so people were very wary, gave lots of space if you tried to fit two cars wide through there. Came onto the back straight, the FailRace motorsport car was a little bit slow. Again, another curb out there on the corner onto this straight, a nasty curb if you get a wheel course on it. Just slowed him down a little bit. The JMR car had a dive up the inside. Now you can sometimes get away with this by running a bit wide. You can get a very, very good exit of this turn. It was a little bit too wide on that one, just carried a little bit too much speed. As I said, there are loads of different lines. People throughout the field were taking all sorts of different lines around this final corner. Quite a few of them were fairly similar speeds around here. You were fast in different places. It's a strange I don't particularly like it. It's a strange corner to try and get right. Yeah, the Rockstar cars, I think they had a little bit of a laggy bump at some point. Dropped back through the field again, and we're having to yet again work their way up the order. This one getting a very fast run off the final turn. If you could get that final turn right, it could make it overtaking quite nice and easy. It's a very wide section of track, but yeah, it was a little bit of a fiddle. It was the mid-pack where most of the action was going on this time round, as the Scion got itself caught up with a couple of Scirocco, this time trying to get to the inside of these corners. But of course, the Sciroccos have got a lot of grip. They are probably the easiest, well, they're definitely the easiest of the cars to drive around here. So trying to get the overtakes done in this section around against cars that have better grip and better brakes than you is kind of difficult. The FailRace car ran a little bit wide, got across the curb, got on the grass and was slow off the turn, and now we see what making one small mistake can do. The Focus is going sort of side by side, ends up being on a tight line, a little bit defensive into this next corner, can't quite pull it up in time, ends up out wide, and then three cars go streaming past. When everything is as close as it is at this particular moment in time, one little mistake, it only takes a little mistake to end up out wide on the curb or across the grass, and you can lose you lose 3 places just because of that one little mistake that puts you out of position for corners further down the line. Yeah, and the FailRace car drops to the back of this little group as you come up towards the final corner. Of course, the Scion is closing on the Scirocco. The Focus did briefly get past the Volkswagen Motorsport car, and the Volkswagen fought back. Again, a pair of them taking slightly different lines. The Focus faster on the way into the corner, the Scirocco being faster on the way out of the corner. The Scion just dropped the back a little bit from the Scirocco that it was chasing, and you can see the straight line speed difference between now and the cars is not massive, but it's just enough to help some vehicles. The front and things were pretty much status quo for a long period of time. The only overtake that went on with the top 4 after the first lap was that, when the Aeon car in second fell off the road and pretty much let me past. I was gradually catching him, and once I got past, the gap remained pretty much identical for the remainder of the race. But yeah, the top 4, not much. That was about it. That was about it that happened with the top 4 in this race. The number 5 Rockstar car would catch up to this group again after its adventures. There was quite a few off-track adventures at this track, I will be honest. Specifically outbraking yourself into the hairpins was quite commonplace. It wasn't perhaps quite as, I wouldn't say quite as exciting race. It was good fun racing, as it was at Yas Marina. There wasn't quite as many overtakes as there was at Yas Marina. The field was a tiny bit more, as you can see here, and this is still a fairly decent group of cars. There wasn't quite the same sort of lots of overtakes a lap going on, but there were plenty of cars that were running close together. The Scions were being, well, Scions, and creating a little bit of a trade as the race progressed. This particular TC holding up a couple of Sciroccos. The FailRace car outbraked itself, and it's all very well and good. They could get a big enough lead on the straights to hold them off through the corners until you make a little mistake. So just ran a tiny bit wide, put a wheel on the grass, put him out of position, puts a wheel on the curb, and then goes round in a circle. Little bit unfortunate there. Probably could have saved it had it not spun directly in front of the path of a Volkswagen. I mean, the Volkswagen slammed on his brakes, but there was nothing he could do about avoiding the spinning Scion. Well, yeah, these could hold off cars. If you make a tiny mistake with them, and these are the most difficult cars to drive, then you have little problems. At the front, it was unsurprisingly the Aeon car that would go on to take victory after being side by side, perhaps through turn 1 with the Scion. That was about the closest anything got to it. After that, it drove away at the front of the field. It wasn't massively quicker than us guys in second and third, but we had been fighting for a couple of laps. We got a big lead and was just gradually extending the lead. And as I said, us two pretty much remained in the same gap the entire race. After the Aeon cars in third's a little off, that promoted me to second, the gap stayed near enough identical. There was nothing we could do about catching the leader. He was too far gone and was lapping quicker. So yeah, we couldn't really do a huge amount about it. But it does mean that it was an all Ford Focus pole, and I got my first podium. So I was pretty pleased with that one. So yeah, Fords dominated the opening race, and it was a Scion that had quite a lonely race in fourth. Nobody was really near the fourth place sign. Scirocco's did a little bit better than I expected, as two Rockstar cars got 5th and 7th with the Volkswagen Motorsport in the middle of them. The other FailRace car didn't have quite such a good race. There was a fair bit of exploring going on in that particular Focus. We have the other Rockstar car coming in 9th. The JMR Focus drop back, was running in about 5th at one point, but would drop back through the field again with a couple of offs. And the other side after that spin was a little bit unfortunate and would drop back to 11th. Another Scion came in 12th. The two Civics struggled. They really struggled at this track, only managing to claim 13th and 14th. It is a little bit of a fiddly track, I have to say, Sebring. Yeah, a few offs with the cars further back. And to round out the field, we would have another Scion. Race 2 would be the full reverse grid from the finishing order of race 1, which means the fast cars were at the back, and I got a terrible start. I was really slow off the line. Cars up ahead were going 3 or 4 wide into this first corner, and everything went a little bit wrong. A Civic got sideways, bumped a Scirocco that bumped another Scirocco that bumped a Focus, and I got involved as well. There was a bit of a first corner pile-up this time around. It's the cold tyres on these cars make them very oversteering, especially in a first turn such as this where it's quite wide and quite fast. Yeah, cars, it's only a tiny little slide from the Civic that caused problems at the front, and yeah, the concertina effect through the field made a bit of a mess for cars further back. A slight lag spike would take both the Civics out, with one of the Sciroccos going with them. FailRace car got amazingly lucky getting through all of that chaos. The lag in the first race was fine. This one, it went a little bit skew-whiff in the braking zones. FailRace car ends up doing some rallycross. I'd recovered quite nicely after the first turn incident with people having problems. I was now right back up with this group of cars. The Aeon vehicle was not far behind as we all raced down this straight. I was just a little bit too far back to really have much of a look. After the sort of shenanigans of the opening lap, things calmed down a little bit. It was the other FailRace car this time round that was trying to overtake the Aeon vehicle as they run down the back straight. And of course, as they were fighting quite ferociously, two Scions had got to the front and had relatively sizable gaps. They were enjoying their leads while everybody else scrapped. The Focuses side by side through these next corners. A FailRace car trying desperately to get to the inside does get the pass done. Almost looks like he's going to run wide on the way into this corner, and sure enough, just can't quite get it turned, and the Aeon car is back through to set off chasing after the two Scions. That time, didn't lose quite as many positions running wide, but yeah, it's very easily done. Going for an overtake into these corners, just to break yourself a tiny little bit, and yeah, then you can easily drop 2 or 3 places. The Rockstar cars were faring a little bit better at this time round at the early stages of the race. The two Sciroccos came onto the back straight. If you can get a good run onto this straight, it is rather useful. It's such a long straight down here for these cars, and was simply just a better run onto the straight. The number 5 can get past. I found myself embroiled in all sorts of shenanigans. Yeah, after that opening lap sort of shunts and bumps and people got shuffled around, I had quite a lot of overtaking to do. The Aeon car that had won the round At the first race, he was also way back down the order and had plenty of stuff to be doing. I am trying to find my way past the Scirocco's here. It's quite hard getting past them. They are good under brakes and they do have a good cornering grip. In the end, I could get my focus to the inside and pretty much force the point that I was there. Not much the Rockstar car could do about that one. And now we come around the next corners, provided I keep everything neat and tidy, I could run away down the straight. The other FailRace Focus and the Aeon car was still battling, and this went on for a couple of laps, and as you can see, it was allowing the Scions to get away. I mean, the more these cars fought, they were fighting pretty damn hard over this third place. The more the Scions at the front could run away with the lead, and the more they fought, the more the group behind us with the Sciroccos and my Focus were catching up as well. So yeah, it was helping all of us and helping the Scions massively. Again, it's side by side down this straight, the FailRace car to the inside. This time though, just can't quite get it stopped. We saw quite a number of cars outbrake themselves into that particular turn. Nasty turn to get the car slowed down. And this time, yeah, the FailRace car just overcooking it a little bit. This time the Scirocco's trying to get up the inside. A little bit of a bump, a very sideways Focus, and that opened the door for me to sneak around past, or try and get past the Scirocco on the outside. And this group would continue to be rather busy down here. The Sciroccos, things would go a little bit wrong for them. A tiny outbreak from the Scirocco behind would give a shunt to the Volkswagen Motorsport car, and it would go for the most spectacular crash of the Touring Car Championship so far. I was very lucky. I was ahead of this group. I outbraked myself completely on my own, and if I hadn't, I would have got clouted by that car. As it was, I just ended up out wide on the grass, and yeah, managed to get away with it at the front. And once the Focuses had stopped fighting amongst themselves, they actually got round to chasing down the two Scions, and the second place car was under considerable pressure. Again, up the inside, the Scions just don't quite have the grip through that particular section of track to hold on to the Focuses, and yeah, the Aeon car scampered away. The FailRace car had a go up the inside. I'm not sure if there's a bit of contact or perhaps a tiny bit of lag. The Scion was pretty slow off the corner, but then we have that acceleration that they get, closes on the back of the Focus, has a go on the inside into the hairpin, just overcooked it, just can't quite get it stopped, and runs wide. And guess what car is making its way up through the field? Yes, the number 22 is now found himself up into fourth place, despite having, I think at one point, pointing backwards on the first lap, and he would make short work of catching up to the back of the other FailRace car, trying to go around the outside of the hairpin. That's a pretty damn tough manoeuvre to do, and then it's side by side again down this back straight. The Aeon car is stuck on the outside for this corner, which is not really where you want to be, but he can manage to get the move done. If you do hold it around the outside, you're on the inside for the next turn, and sure enough, the Aeon Focus is up into third. The FailRace car is having a look, but can't really do too much, and it wouldn't take long for them to catch the leader either as we come down the back straight. Even with a poor run onto this straight, you can see the speed that the Scion has. His only hope is to make enough gap down the straight to fend them off through the corners, but these Aeon Focuses were so fast that yeah, he was in a little bit of trouble. Tries his best though, doesn't give up the position easily around the final turn, and they do keep side by side all the way around it, and the Scion has got some of the speed down this start-finish straight, but it has to be a big dive if you are going to do much into this first corner, and the Scion doesn't quite have the brakes. He does the sensible thing and just decides to play it neat. A little bit of lag going on. Playing it neat, he's still just about within range up towards the next corner, but again, Focus is too good through the turns, and the Scion is just that little bit too far back. If you can be quick through these sections, you will have another straight to come up, but again, Scion, again, just that little bit too far back to try anything, and it wouldn't be long before the Aeon car, the other Aeon car I should say, would catch to the back of the Scion. They were running out of laps, so they had to get the overtakes done as quickly as possible. The TC would just run a little bit wide. The Focus saw a gap that was just about big enough for a Focus. The FailRace car is on the grass a little bit in the background, and the Focus gets the position. Yeah, I think the side in the end didn't want to be going too wide and be on the very large curb on the inside. You don't want to fire your car across the curb. Sometimes you'll survive it, sometimes you'll be fine, at other times it'll go disastrously wrong and you'll end up pointing backwards. And it wasn't long before the FailRace Focus would catch up to the Scion as well as they round the final corner. It's all about who can get the best drive out of that turn, and it's pretty neck and neck down the straight. Of course, the Scion will just start pulling away a little bit by the time they get to turn 1. He is on a slightly shallower line, having to try and go defensive. The Focus gets brave around the outside of turn 1. That's always an adventurous place to go. A little bit of rally crossing for the Ford. It does keep you on the outside though for the next corner, and the Focus can't quite make the manoeuvre stick around there. That second corner is a pretty tough one to go around the outside, and even with the grip of the Focus, it's yeah, you can't quite get that one done. And then another little bit of rallycross going on to try and find any way past at the front, and it was to be a 1-2 for the two Aeon vehicles. The number 22 was catching and may have challenged his teammate if there had been another couple of laps, but as it was, he was going to have to settle for second place. Not bad from pointing backwards on the opening lap. Third place, though, was a much closer finish between these two. The Focus still trying to find a way past, but you're running out of opportunities at this particular point. There is not much, especially with the Scion speed down the straight. You haven't got many more places. Really only got the final corner. So that means that the Ford has got to be very quick on to this back straight, and sure enough, he gets as good a run as he can. The Scion is just that little bit wide across the very bumpy curves, and now we have the drag race. You can see the drive the Focus got of the turn. It just gradually started pulling away, and then comes the Scion fighting back. It's going to be side by side into the final turn. However, the Scion is on the outside and very nearly had a wheel on the grass. If you put a wheel properly on the grass there and you're on the brakes, it's very easy to spin the car. Incredibly easy to have the car go round in a circle. Yeah, Scion was a few millimetres away from disaster, but as it was, FailRace Focus got himself onto the podium, and the Scion would have to settle for fourth. Onto the race results from the second one. The two Aeon cars taking a 1-2 with another FailRace Focus on the podium. Again, another all-Ford podium. The two Scions would claim 4th and 5th. I would catch up to the 5th place car. I promptly spun myself, and yeah, I would have a bit of a poor second race and drop back to 7th. The highest place Scirocco would be in 6th. The Sciroccos, yeah, weren't having the greatest of days with the other Rockstar cars. One coming 9th, one with DNF, sadly, with connection issues. The JMR Focus would be consistent with another 10th place. Again, the Civic struggled in race 2 as well, coming 12th and 14th. Yeah, not the greatest of days for the Hondas, and the Raven West cars were struggling a little bit with their Scions. On to the championship standings, and unsurprisingly, at the top, it is the two Aeon Focuses by quite a margin back to 3rd place. It gets a little bit closer from 3rd back with race victory in one of the Yas Marina races. It is a Scion that finds itself in 3rd. I'm in 4th, chasing as hard as I can. Then we have the rather close Sciroccos and the other FailRace car further down, and we have the people who've only competed in one race. The way the championship is working, your lowest scoring round will be dropped. So if you have to end up missing out on one race, yeah, then that round will get dropped and so on. So there's a mixture of people who've competed in 1 and 2 races further down, but yeah, in general, Focuses are doing pretty damn well. And even though Sebring is perhaps not my favourite track, perhaps not the greatest one for promoting close racing at times, it was still very, very good fun. I have to say, even with my spin in race 2, I did quite enjoy racing here. Anyway, that is it for this video, guys. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.